Welcome to Midday Treat with NAZ Elite, a monthly podcast in which I chat with HOKA NAZ Elite team members, and you'll get a behind-the-scenes scoop on their training, racing, and everyday lives. I'm your host, Eric Senseman. You can find our monthly podcast on SoundCloud by searching HOKA NAZ Elite, and you can learn more about the faces behind the team by visiting their website, nazelite.com, their Facebook page, Northern Arizona Elite, or their Instagram and Twitter, both at NAZ_Elite. Welcome to the podcast. This is the HOKA One Midday Treat with NAZ Elite. I'm here this time with Alice Wright. Alice, welcome.
Thank you.
So we're going to get to chatting about Alice's background. I don't know if you could tell, but she is British.
No, can you just tell from me saying hello?
You might not have been able to, so I'll just make sure everyone's clear on that. So we'll talk about growing up there and coming over to the States when you got into college and how things have gone throughout your career so far. So take us back to your first day on Earth.
On Earth?
When you were born in England. No, I'm kidding. But you did grow up in England, and you've been here for quite a bit. What's it like to be here? You
know, it's different. I would say like New Mexico is about as far away from like British culture you can get in America. I kind of noticed that when I went to Boston. I was like, wait, I feel like Boston is like more similar to England than it is to New Mexico.
Sure.
So I was definitely kind of thrown in at the deep end, and yeah, New Mexico is just like a bit of a wild place, honestly. Like I told some of my friends in England that I was going to New Mexico and they genuinely thought I was going to Mexico.
Oh, okay.
So now I just joke it's like a new part of Mexico. Yeah, so I try and keep that going as long as I can. But
For
no,
sure.
It was definitely an experience, and I'd say it took me a good like year to kind of adjust to like not only the American culture but just like living in New Mexico. Believe it or not, there's definitely like a language difference. There's like a couple of words that are like
Sure.
different in England and America, and I had a few tricky situations with that. But
do you have an example?
It's normally just like the embarrassing words.
Okay.
Like pants is like one which we don't say. Like we say trousers, but more like so we say what type of like pants it is. But,
sure.
Yeah, so that's like different, and then. There's other things as well, like we say, we don't say restroom, that sounds very weird to me. So now when I go back to England and I say that, people like look at me a bit weirdly, like, do you want to go for like a rest in a room? Like, it's just like not like the said thing,
Right.
So,
Yeah, what, is it the lid? No,
we say the toilet.
The toilet, yeah.
Which is such an awkward thing to say out here because
Right.
it sounds very literal, apparently.
Yes. Yeah. That's a funny difference.
Yeah, there's like quite a few of those words which I've like stumbled upon.
Do you ever use bathroom? You said restroom is what
Bathroom is like if you want to take a bath.
Yeah, I guess it is.
So that's another one that's like awkward.
Right.
But that now I find myself saying the American words in England and the spelling as well, which my family gets so annoyed at me about. Like taking out all the U's out of colour and favourite.
Yeah. And then there's the S versus the Z, right? In some instances.
Yeah, and I don't know what to set on my laptop to. It's just, like, I never know when I'm writing an essay, like, when I was at school, like, what I should write it in. Should I write it in, like, British and just go for it with the whilsts and, like, the U's? But no, I slowly have just, like, adapted to the American spelling.
Right.
Much to my family's annoyance, I would say.
I could imagine. I feel like we could have a whole hour-long podcast.
Oh, we definitely could. I have many stories about my embarrassing times with words, yeah.
Well, hopefully we get some more of those as we go. So you do have your family still back in England. Mm-hmm. So you have brothers and sisters?
I have two older sisters.
Okay.
And then like my mum and dad, yeah.
And are they runners? Any of them?
No, so no one in my family, no one in like all the years ran. They're actually rowers. My two sisters were big into rowing. My one big sister was like really, well, they're both older sisters, but my eldest one, she actually rowed for Great Britain, so she was pretty good at rowing.
Oh, that's awesome. Olympics or
she did,
World Champs? Or?
I think she did the Europeans.
Okay.
I don't think she did the World Champs. I was quite young when she did it. She's 8 years older than me.
Okay.
But as you can see from my like physique, I'm like not really made for rowing.
Yeah.
So I did try, but after like a couple of capsizes and some unsuccessful races, I was like, maybe I should try something that my physique is more made for.
So wait, is that a single boat, like single person, single boat, or is it?
No, so you can do that. You can do, there's like lots of different ways.
Right.
You can do 4, 8, it's called like a quad or an 8, a single or a double.
Right.
And then you can scull or you can row.
Right.
I was actually, it's called a coxswain. I don't know if it's like the one that steers at the front.
Yeah, of course.
So I did that for a little bit, but I was actually horrible at steering the boat as well. So.
Oh, so that's the steer if you sit in front. Okay.
I was like very aggressive with my shouting, and I had that down, but I just didn't have the steering down.
Okay,
so,
got it.
Yeah,
seems important if that's your job.
Yeah, if that's your one job,
So there were some capsizes. You moved on. So when did you start running competitively? Was it pretty early?
So. I want to say like my sports days were pretty competitive situations for me, just because like my elder sister, she really like was a big role model for me. Both of them are, and she was always like, it's all about winning, and it was just like a very competitive family.
Right.
So I take the sports days pretty seriously. I definitely wanted that first sticker like a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a big incentive for me.
Okay.
But then I did like, it's very generic. I did the village like fun run and did pretty well at that, and the next year I decided I was going to do the 10k, which I think is quite funny now. My mum thought it was such a long way that she bought me a camelback for that. So,
oh really? For a 10k?
Yeah, I had a water backpack.
Oh, that's fantastic.
That. Yeah, because it was a really, really long way.
Yeah, it's only maybe you were born to be an ultra runner someday.
Yeah,
you started the hydration thing very early.
I did. So it's kind of funny. And then I actually played field hockey a lot when I was younger.
Okay.
And kind of had to make a choice between field hockey and running. And I took like a couple of concussions in hockey, and I was just like, I think it's time for me to just stick to the running.
Right. I didn't know that field hockey gets that physically.
Yeah, it can do.
Yeah, you can run into each other, I guess.
It's just like the hitting each other with the sticks, honestly.
Oh, okay. Is it not a penalty if you do that?
Yeah, but I mean, some people
it still happens, right?
Take it.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Or like once I got hit by a ball, actually.
Oh, okay.
So that was pretty bad.
Yeah, that could be bad. I can see that. So then, I guess you must have found your knack to some degree with running, because obviously you ended up coming over to the States to run. So was it pretty successful when you? I was actually
kind of shocked actually to be getting like recruiting universities trying to recruit me from America, and honestly I was a bit like, this is too good to be true. Like, what's the like snag here? I don't like believe that like the offers that they're offering me.
Did you not have like the accolades that you thought you would need to receive those sorts of offers, or? I
think maybe I'm just hard on myself, but I think like, I think the best thing that I really did was when I was like 16, I ran 9:39 for the 3k, and I think it was just that one time that I had. All my other times like sucked in the grand scheme of things.
Okay.
Or it's just like very mediocre for that kind of like age group. Fortunately, I was like a decent championship runner, which I think like maybe gave me a bit of a boost as well. But I was actually injured after I ran that time for like 3 years, and I think that's why I was so surprised to be getting offers when I was like finishing high school, because I was like, I haven't done anything impressive at all for the last couple of years. It's just that one time that I'm clinging on to.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, what is this like real?
Right.
So yeah, that's kind of how that went.
So what about running in the US I imagine you could have run back home in college if you would have liked, or?
Yeah, I think like honestly for me this sounds really sad that this is one of the main reasons I came to America, but I come from a really small village in England.
Okay.
And it's like deep in the countryside, and we have like one like little doctor's like clinic, and I went in with what now I think was either like a start of a stress reaction or like tendinitis, and I just like looked up on WebMD, you like self-diagnose yourself, and it said like get this thing called an MRI. So I went into the doctors and I was like, can I get an MRI? I hadn't even like really come across these things before.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, it could take like 6 months for us to get this pushed through, like on the like where I was living and through that system. And so like one of the main pulls for me to America was they were like, we can get you an MRI in a couple of days. And I was like, if I just go for this MRI, like it's like kind of worth it, you know?
Yeah, totally.
And that wasn't obviously the reason I went. There was a more thought process than that. Again, my sister kind of, you know, she sat me down and she was like, sometimes you just have to take a risk, Alice. And like, sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't. But I think you'll regret if you don't take it. And I think if my running had been going really well, I hadn't had that injury, I probably wouldn't have gone. I would have stayed in England in a system that I knew worked for me. But it wasn't working for me at the time, and I needed that medical help. And yeah, that's when I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go for it. And if I hate it, then I can leave, I guess. So yeah, I haven't looked back.
That's great. So has that issue subsided, whatever was causing the problem?
Well, I think by the time I got the MRI, it was like it healed.
Okay.
But I was such a young, like naive runner at the time that I was just like running on it.
I see.
You know, I'd take a couple of days and I'd be like, oh, it's better again, like time to get running.
Sure.
And then I'd take it back to square one.
Sure.
So yeah, it was fine after that. They honestly just gave me some like arch support insoles, and it just went away like that. So yeah, it's one of those things where it's like you try things, and then it's just that one thing that like works for you. And it was the insoles.
Interesting. And where specifically in England?
Worcestershire.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's a bit north, right?
No, it's West Midlands.
West Midlands. Okay, got it. Someone listening probably knows.
Yeah, it's kind of close to Wales, but I don't admit that because...
Understandable. Well, when you did get to New Mexico, well, it went quite well.
No, it didn't.
No?
No.
Okay.
This is where it's, you know, people have this wrong. My first year was a disaster.
Okay.
I call it my social networking year because I basically got a femoral stress fracture within a couple of months of being there. I was a solid 7th from last at Notre Dame in fights.
Okay.
I think I ran like 1930 something for the 5K.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, that was like I mean, I feel like maybe things could have only improved from there.
Yeah, right.
So that's one way to look at that. Anyway, then I had the femoral stress fracture. I had to redshirt the whole year, which I am so grateful now that I did do. I just was like that typical freshman who like blasted the easy runs and then couldn't cling on to like a 6:45 pace in a tempo. I was actually telling like the guys yesterday that I did one 6-mile tempo supposed to be at 6:45, and I was so desperate I had to get my teammate to tell me every 10th of a mile. I was like, you just got to tell me, because I'm just like so desperate to get to the finish.
Oh my goodness.
Just 60 times I think she had to tell me.
Right.
Great teammate.
She did it.
She did.
Wow. Yeah, kudos to her.
Yeah, and I did make it to the end. Probably not in 6:45, but...
Right.
Anyway, and then I really, like that summer I went back to England, and I kind of just really had to reevaluate myself as a runner, and I thought, like, what's happened to you, Alice? Like... You're going to get your scholarship taken away from you. Like, you love New Mexico. Like, you need to get your act together.
Yeah.
And I just, like, that summer, I was, like, so determined that I was going to, like, turn things around. And I remember coming back to New Mexico and my coach, Joe, was like, what have you been doing over the summer? Like, what's happened? You're, like, a kind of different athlete now.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm back.
That's cool.
Yeah, so... And then 2014, that was like a cool year for me. There was like really no expectation, and any like All-American that I got was just like, you know, I was just so happy to get any All-American I could get. And then my expectations just like grew every year. And then, yeah, I fortunately got that 5th year back from redshirting my first year, which all worked out really well in the end, and everything happens for a reason, hey?
Sure. So do you think it was a matter of... like not believing in yourself enough, or not being committed enough to being as good as you could that first year? Or what do you think changed? I mean, it sounded like it was largely a mental state, like the way you were viewing things.
Yeah, I like don't really like to think of it as like, you know, mentally it like got to me. I think it was just more like, honestly, I was so like young and naive when I came to America. I was telling the story the other day. I like landed in New Mexico with my 20-kilogram suitcase, like in wedges with a little purse and a dress, like coming straight from England.
That's great.
And I was just so like young at the time, and I think I honestly just needed to like mature, like physically and mentally. And I just grew up a lot in that first year. I just come from such a kind of, I don't want to say a sheltered background, but, I had lived just with my family in this small village in England. We travelled like 45 minutes to get to school every day, and then we come home, and it was just, it's like one of those, I just spent a lot of time with my family, and I wasn't really used to like the whole like college life.
Sure.
And then I don't know, it just took me that year to kind of adjust to that. Like, not only just, like, living in college and, like, living that life, but also I think the altitude played, like, a big factor as well. I'd come from sea level, and it just was a big change for me.
Yeah.
And I watch a lot of, like, the English freshmen that come to UNM now. I watch, I say to them, like, don't get disheartened if the first year, isn't going your way, because, that's exactly what happened to me, and there's so many people that it takes a good year for them to make that transition successful.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that makes sense. You became an 8-time All-American, so things definitely turned around.
Fortunately.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad. I didn't know about your 1935 5K.
Yeah, I think it was 1933.
33.
So give me some credit
my
there.
fault. That's my fault. But no, that's a cool story. That's a cool lesson that you kind of hang in there and try to change things as you see fit, and keep working hard, and you can go from 1933 to an 8-time All-American.
Yeah, it can be done. So if you're 7th at Notre Dame, and 7th from last at Notre Dame, don't be disheartened.
Right. If you're 6th from last, then you might have problems.
I don't know.
That's very cool. And you also won 2 team titles while you were there cross country.
Awesome.
So what role did that play in your success, the ladies you were running with when you were there?
Well, it was actually funny to kind of look back on now, because it was such a new team. It's like funny for me to look where I was, where the team was in 2013. We as a team, like, I was winning nationals. I just think it was never like, I don't know, it just never seemed like a possibility. And then for us to win it, like, I hate to sound like boastful, but for us to win it with like so few points as well was just, like, for me it was crazy, because I'd kind of seen how the team was in 2013, and then 2014 we got 3rd, which was like so unexpected. And then for us to win the next year, I was just like, what has just happened? Like, this is crazy. And that team as well, like, Courtney, she's just run the American record for the 3K steeple, and it's like, it was an awesome team. And I think what was like one of the main points for us was that Flowtrack came to film us. They spent like a week in New Mexico, like, filming us for like, I can't remember what it was for one of their like shows.
Sure.
And I think that really forced us to like bond a lot as a team.
Yeah, right.
And I don't know whether we would have been that successful actually without that experience, because we were really forced to like form those friendships. And yeah, I think that actually played like a big role in just like the dynamic of how the team, like how we ended up as like great friends as a team. And just, I don't know whether we would have got as few points without those like experiences at the beginning of the semester.
Yeah. Well, so you're one of, I believe it's 4 new additions to NAZ Elite.
Yes.
Am I getting that right?
Yeah, no, you are right.
Okay. So maybe we're gonna have to call Flowtrack and tell them to come out.
Do a couple of episodes with us,
Maybe that's what you need for it to work the same way.
That's quite funny.
Yeah. Does that get you excited? So, right, the whole, I don't even know if I mentioned this in the beginning, but you are a newly minted member of NAZ Elite. So the point here is to get to know you as a new member of the team. Is that something that attracted you to NAZ Elite when you were looking at options after college in terms of going pro, like being with a group that you could train with and be close with, similar to what you had at New Mexico?
I think, I came for a visit, and I think it was like early April that I came, and I really liked the team. I did a couple of runs with them, went for a couple of like brunch a couple of times, and I just like really liked Steph and like Kellen and the guys, and just like everyone seemed like really mature runners, which I think was something I was craving. Like, I was definitely, my last year at UNM, I loved the team, but I was definitely getting that super senioritis, where you're like, I'm feeling a little old. Like, when I first came here, I was like the child of the team and everyone seemed so old and cool.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I feel old, but I don't feel that cool. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I think it's time now.
Yeah.
And then it was actually funny, in like the last couple of weeks actually that I was at UNM, I was kind of like, oh no, am I ready to leave? Like,
bit scary.
It was a little scary because I was like, oh no, like, well, people were throwing out all these words like taxes, health insurance, and I was like, you know, actually, what's that about 6th year? Like, I think I have indoors, right? But no, I'm so glad, you know, it was time for me to move, and now I'm here, I see that, and I think, like, knock on wood, I made the right decision.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so we're at about 7,000 feet here in Flagstaff. What elevation were you at?
5,000.
5,000, okay.
And I do feel it.
Yes.
I don't want to like sound really pathetic here because I think Danny kind of looks at me when I like moan about, I'm like, oh, the altitude. And she's like, you have 5,000 feet on me. And I'm like, I can't even imagine. Like, honestly, I can't imagine because I do moan, I think, probably an unfair amount about the altitude.
Right.
But no, it is a different feeling. It's that kind of like, I feel sick feeling. Yep. I did a workout at Buffalo Park like on Friday, which I probably won't forget for a long time.
Did you puke?
You know, I did think I was going to. I've never actually puked in a workout, and that was the closest I have ever been.
Yeah.
And it's also, I don't know if other athletes get this, but it's like a blood at the back of the throat feeling.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
you can,
is that a thing?
Taste like aluminum or like a copper
Iron,
or
something.
Yeah.
And
it's your body dying inside.
Exactly. And it's just like, it's not even like my legs hurt feeling. It's like, I just can't breathe.
Right.
I just need more oxygen feeling.
Yeah.
It's like kind of sad. I try and like work out ways that I can get more oxygen to my body. And I was like, just open your mouth like really wide. Just try and breathe in as much as you can.
That's very funny.
But yeah.
Was it successful? Did you?
I was just like a child in their first like sports day where you just like sprint at the beginning.
Right.
Like, I feel amazing.
Yeah.
And then you get to like mile 2 and I'm like, you know, I don't feel so amazing anymore. And then you get like half a mile from the end and there's that big ass hill at the end.
Right.
And you're like, okay, like, can we get to the finish now? Because this is not fun anymore.
And now you're like, not only do I not feel amazing, I'm running very slow.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like I could probably power walk up this hill faster.
Right. Yeah, it's a brutal loop there.
And then I was given like 5 minutes recovery, which I thought would be like, I was like, I'm used to like a minute. And I'm like, okay, I've got so much time. That 5 minutes, I was like, it's as if they just started the watch and then stopped it and were like, time to go. I was like, where did that go? Like, literally, where did that go?
Yeah.
So it was an experience, but yeah, it's definitely a place to get fit or die trying, I think.
Yes. Yeah, no, I think that's right. I think it's why people have been, well, successful training in Flagstaff.
I've heard like many rumors about how like the whole NAU, like men's team, you know, that's how they won their title, but just doing workouts there.
Yep.
But yeah, I think I just need to like toughen myself up for these workouts.
Sure. Yeah,
but I'm ready.
Give yourself some time. Yeah. It takes a bit of getting used to. I think. That's very funny. So, what when you look at your years ahead, I suppose, now that you're running professionally, what do you think about like these? What is it that you want to accomplish as a pro?
I think like really. Any runner, professional runner would say, I'd like to think anyway, that, you know, ever since I was younger, I've always wanted to get that gold at the Olympics. And it might sound completely unrealistic and, like, stupid to say, but, like, that is always, like, at the back of your mind, your, like, absolute dream, dare I say, goal.
Yeah.
And so, for me, it's just, like, taking the stepping stones to get as close to that goal as I can. I think just trying to represent my country as much as I can, lowering my times. I definitely want to break 32 in the 10 to start with. And yeah, just like I definitely want to move to the marathon. I don't want to say like as soon as possible, but as soon as possible. So I would love, like I do think that's where I'm going to be most successful as a runner, is in the marathon distances. But, you know, I'm not ready to, like, leave the 10K yet. And I think, hopefully I've got some good kind of half marathons ahead of me. I've just got to stay healthy and, like, nail those workouts at Buffalo Park, I think. So, yeah.
That's a piece of the puzzle, I'm sure. So, where to go next? I had about 3 questions. What does... So Ben Rosario obviously is now your coach.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've spoken with... I'm sure this is not the first time you've mentioned going to the marathon. I'm sure you've mentioned it to him. What does he think about that for you?
I think I'm going to be pretty conservative with like how I go about that. I've definitely got to get up to that kind of marathon mileage. The part of me is like, should I just try one when I'm really fresh and see what happens?
Right.
Which I think would end horribly. But, I think obviously the natural progression is to do the half marathon first.
Sure.
And yeah, we're definitely not ready to say goodbye to the 10K. He knows that that's something that I want to continue. I'm definitely ready to say goodbye to the shorter distances. Okay. But whether they'll put them in there for like, for the sake of the longer ones.
Tune-ups and that,
yeah, that's obviously a discussion we'll have to have when it comes to more of the track season next year.
Sure.
But I think in the near future, it's going to be some road races and then hopefully European cross country.
Okay.
And so there's the trial race for that as well, and we kind of have to add that into the calendar. And then there's the World Cross Country next year as well, and there's like just a lot of opportunities to hopefully represent my country. That would be awesome to do that as well.
Sure.
So.
You mentioned before we got started, before we started recording, that you'd love if you could have like a nice evenly paced 10K. Like you like that style.
Oh, I try and give it to other people as well. That's my style of running.
So do you think that makes me think, now that we're speaking of the marathon, that perhaps that's why you're attracted to that distance? I mean, the marathon a lot of times is very much that.
Yeah.
Just kind of hitting splits for a couple hours.
I know, it sounds great.
So you like that idea?
Yeah, I do really like that idea. I also just love the extreme stuff though. I know it sounds so cheesy to be like, I just love challenging myself, but right. I just really like challenging myself, and I think the marathon is a perfect challenge because it's extremely hard, and I think maybe later in life I've always said I do want to do an Iron Woman, something like that. That will obviously be after I've kind of achieved my marathon goals.
Sure.
But yeah, I just for me really the longer the better. I say this now having never done a marathon. And I'm sure I'll probably say something different after I've done my first one.
Right.
But a lot of people have told me that my style of running and my training that I've done the last 5 years are really just suited towards the road running and
sure.
Marathon running. So yeah, I think that hopefully I'm can live up to those expectations.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the biggest challenges as you go further is the sort of mental fortitude and strength. It sounds like that must be one of your strengths.
Yeah, I think with that though kind of comes with, for me, it's not really allowing myself to ever admit feelings of weakness to myself. I know that sounds a little ridiculous and a bit you're trying to just ignore it.
Right.
But I think as soon as you start paying too much attention to how you're feeling emotionally, for me, I think that's more of a I start to feel a bit weak and a bit pathetic, and it's if you just get on with it, Alice.
Yeah.
That's a much better more of a military approach to training for me. It's I was saying this the other day, it's sometimes I approach a track session and I'm I just don't think I can do this.
Yeah.
But if you just say to yourself well, good luck in a 10K if you can't do this, that's
right.
that's so much better for me
Sure.
to approach it, because it's well, you're not going to be able to achieve what you actually want to in the race if
right.
you can't do this track session, so you better do it.
Yeah.
Rather than being oh, don't worry, Alice, it'll be okay.
Sure.
No, you can't be admitting that.
Yeah, I think, well, I've often described racing to people as your ability to sort of turn off your governor, right? Or your emotional...
Exactly.
All of your emotions.
You can't give into it.
Down,
you really
right.
can't give into
yeah.
it. You have to be almost robotic in how you approach
exactly
the
right.
longer stuff.
Yeah, okay. So that's kind of the way you look at it.
Yeah, I think so, and I think that's something that I've grown up from my sisters and stuff. They've always taught me, especially Amy, she's always said to me, my older sister, and Grace, and just my parents, it's just just man up and don't be pathetic about it, because that's the truth of distance
sure.
running. And honestly, if you can't cope with someone saying like a mean comment or something, like good luck when you get to that tough point in a race.
Right.
It's kind of just like, just get on with it and don't just ignore the petty things. And I think for me, I'm not saying emotions are petty, because there's definitely a time and a place to like address those, and like mental health and everything is like so important for athletes. But at the same time, I think there's just that mental toughness that you have to have for the for athletics, really.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned some of the challenges you've had, I guess, earlier in your career coming into college and so forth. But again, it seems like it started to go quite well, obviously, being an 8-time All-American. Have you had any, I guess, challenges or struggles recently that have made you think twice about turning pro or trying to do running?
Yeah, I think just that, like, I always wanted, obviously, to win an NCAAs. I got second twice, and then I was fourth, and it's just, like, so annoying not to get that win. It really is annoying.
It's a good way to put it.
Like, there's so many times people can be like, oh, but you got second. And, like, to me, it's first loser. Like, I wasn't first. Right. And I know, there's no, like, shame in getting top 3 because that's awesome. But at the same time, it's not the win.
Right.
And we do live in kind of a society where it's, like, win or lose kind of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think just like that lack of an NCAA win was, whilst it's motivating, it's also a little depressing at the same time, and it does make you think like, what's the point if I'm not going to be able to win? But maybe that's why I'm here now, because I just like I'm very desperate to get that like major win. Obviously, can't do that in the NCAA now, which is a bit annoying, but. I like, there's always going to be another race, and I do hope to get that, impressive win one day, and that's definitely something that's, like, keep me going for in the running thing. And I don't want to say, like, I think I'm capable of it, because it sounds a little arrogant, but, like, you've got to have that kind of self-belief, I think, to carry on, yeah.
Sure, certainly. Yeah, well, you have several teammates who I'm sure could
exactly
have some words of wisdom, yeah.
It's very impressive.
Yeah, totally.
I think back to the times where we did, like, tempo and stuff together, and I'm like, what?
What?
Yeah, like, I don't know if I could run that for a flat 3K.
Yeah, sure. So, back to the marathon quickly. I know that some of your now teammates on NAZ Elite are targeting a marathon in the fall of 2020.
Yeah.
Does that seem like a possibility for you?
2020, wait, that's 2 years from now, really. Yeah, I mean, I think so. Maybe I'm a little optimistic and I'm not really like gauging like how an actual marathon would feel. Maybe I'm just a bit naive about this, but I think like 2 years, like surely.
Yeah, surely. It seems like such a long time. Huh?
It does. Yeah. Although the last 5 years did fly by, and I still like low key feel like I'm 18. So I've got to keep remembering that I am 23.
Right.
And like actually, I keep thinking like, oh, you're just young, Alice. Don't worry.
You're too young for it, right?
But now I'm like, actually, is 23 that young? I don't know if it is. So
many people listening would probably hope so.
Yeah.
But it's from your perspective, yes, the question of a marathon.
Yeah, I'm like feeling pretty old right now. So it's time to get cracking with the marathon.
Wait till you're 29, let me tell you.
I'll be doing ultras with that.
Yeah, that's right. Or your Iron Woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyways, it's on the horizon. So, well, I guess the last thing I meant to ask you is about, I'm going to have to read whatever, but that you have exciting news that you found out.
Yes.
Just hours ago, and I don't even know what it is. So you can enlighten me.
No, I was selected for the European Championships in 2 weeks' time, I think.
You were.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
10,000. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited.
It's in 2 weeks' time. It's
on August the 8th. When is that? Is that 2 weeks' time? That's about 2 weeks, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Well, a bit more, but yeah. 2.5.
Yeah.
Why did you find out so late? That seems late.
I know, that's just how it goes.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Something a slight panic about like the whole booking the flights thing.
Okay. Yeah.
I went online today and kind of threw up a bit in my mouth seeing the prices.
Sure.
But
where's it held?
In Berlin, in Germany.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm really excited. It'll be my first senior debut for GB.
That's wonderful.
Which will be cool. I hope it goes well. A little nervous just because I'm not quite sure, like, you know, NCAA 10K was a while ago now, and like, yes, I've been training, but it's just that like, you know, I've been training in Flagstaff, so it's slightly different to, it's like I don't really have anything to compare it to.
Yeah.
I'm just like praying to the fitness gods that I am fit.
Yeah, maybe it feels like, well, you probably haven't run quite as fast as you would if you were lower elevation. Is that part of what worries you?
Well, I've never really run that fast because I am kind of like, I like don't really tend to be ever running that fast.
Yeah.
Like it's more, that's why I'm doing the 10K. But no, I had a good workout with Steph in Sedona last week. And then I actually like had a bit of like food poisoning, stomach flu, something like that. So it took me out for kind of 4 days. Then felt very fresh and did the Buffalo Park workout, which I think went pretty well. And then today I kind of did this like 3-mile progression at the end of my long run, which I actually felt pretty awful for. So another track session on Thursday, hoping that the pattern is that I feel good.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, I think too, you'll be at sea level in Berlin, so...
yes, I'm really hoping I feel big gains from that.
Yeah, usually feels quite a lot better.
Yeah, and like hopefully, I feel like this race as well, in European races, it tends to be like a more of a fair kind of paced race, whereas I feel like a lot of the NCAA races, I took it upon myself to be like, I'm going to have to be setting this, if it's going to be a fair race. Like,
otherwise it's going to be slow and
Otherwise it's going to be slow and a kick, and I didn't want that to happen.
Sure.
But yeah, now I feel a little more confident in my kick just because I have been doing a few like shorter things and workouts. But yeah, we'll just see. Obviously I'm going to go and give it my best shot, and you know, I'd love to get, you know, as close to my PR as possible and below it, but I just really don't know like what's going to happen. I'm just going to go and hope for the best.
Sure. And that's 32:15 is your PR?
Yes, it is.
How would that fare historically in a race like this if you were to run your PR, I guess? You
know, I haven't actually like looked that up, but I do trust in the like British Athletics selection policy.
Sure.
They only really pick athletes if they feel like you've got a good chance of like being up there. So yeah, I am like, I'm trusting in that, but I'm also I'm gonna just trust in my training for the last couple of weeks, and you know, obviously I'd love to get that World Champs qualifier, which is 32:15 flat.
Okay.
And I'm 32:15.75.
Oh no.
So that's a little annoying, but
if you just leaned a bit.
You know, I wish someone had just shouted that to me in the last 100 meters. But
I'll be at your next race. How about that?
Oh, yeah, exactly. So, yeah, hopefully I can get that. But I honestly just don't really know what's going to happen. I'm going to go in and try and just race it, I think.
Yeah,
I think that's the most important thing.
Right.
Rather than time hunting.
Yep.
And normally times come with that. So, yeah, fingers crossed.
Awesome. Well, that'll be very exciting. Hopefully we'll have a chance to chat after that, because you will have done so well.
Yeah, I hope so. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Alice, for joining the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been great to get to know you, and we'll chat with you again soon.
Yes. Thanks.
All right.